Okay, so we're with the Maxwind sweeper here and we are changing the center brush. So what you need to do first things first is there's a 13mm nut here. I would recommend using an impact driver just to undo that. If you try to use a spanner, it will rotate the brush and not come loose. So you take that one out of the way, and then you have a 13mm right here as well, and you're going to need to take that off. So there we go. Take that all the way off. There's only one on this one. And then that will come off towards you, like so. When the machine needs a brush, sometimes check this, it will be wrapped with weeds and all that sort of stuff. Just make sure that's all clean before you put that back on. Now what you do is there's a 13 here, here and here. We loosen them ones completely off. That one's a bolt. And then just here, last one. Just behind the wheel. And then this will come off like so. And sometimes these fall apart, so they are sandwiched. So we can remove this part, like so. Okay, so there's 3 components of that. You're going to need to take them apart to put it back on. So we'll leave that aside for a second. And then we have the brush here, okay? So what you're going to do with this now is you're going to pull this towards you. If you are too low to the floor, what I recommend is jacking up the back of the machine so it tilts forwards, but you can do it like this. So what we do now is put 2 hands on there and pull it out towards you. Okay, so now we have the brush out. This end piece here does have a bearing, okay? I always recommend is when you change this brush, just to make sure that bearing's healthy. If it's not, we will replace it. So this part of the brush needs to come out for the new brush anyway. So you see these tabs here and tabs here, what you do, just give it a bit of a tap and it will come free. Okay, so that part of the brush now can go. It's not, doesn't mean anything to us anymore. As you can see the bearing in there. All right, if it feels a bit rough or anything like that, I'd recommend to change it. And to do so, you need some circlip pliers. Okay, so we have the bearing here and you've got some circlip. So you get your circuit pliers, you pull the circlip out. What we're gonna do is we're gonna push this bearing out this way. So we need to flip it round. Then I will get a socket and a hammer. As you can see, that's started to fall out already. A little bit more of a pressure there. Okay. And that's your bearing removed, okay? So then what we do is you get a new one, like so. It doesn't need to be packed with grease because these are internal bearings, so they don't need grease. So we just line it up as straight as possible. As you can see, that's popped back into place. Gets pushed all the way down. You can get new circlips, but if you can use the same one, that doesn't matter. We just pop that in there like that. And now that's ready to go onto your new brush. Okay, so we've got your new brush here. When they come, you take these rods out, make sure they've got them out of the way. Same with this side as well. Important information now is you need to make sure this V is facing in forwards position of the machine. So this is facing forwards. You can't put it, if you put it on like that, the brush will spin the wrong way and it won't fill your hopper up with any dirt. So you've got to make sure it's that way. And then you put your new cap with your new bearing on this side. Okay, so now you're on this point, what you have to do, just make sure you line up the tabs on each corner, each side, sorry, and then And that is ready to go back into the machine. Okay, so these are the tabs we need to take note of. When we put this back into the machine, these will slide into the other side of the brush. So we do need to take note of these. Just before we put the brush onto the shaft, what I recommend is the long bolt that we took out in the middle. I would get that, take the washers off and just screw it in slightly into that. It will help us guide the brush on. So we just do that, and now we're at the procedure now where we can slide the brush on. But what we do is, because we put that bolt all the way through, we can line it up a lot easier. Okay, you see how that doesn't come all the way through? I'll show you around the other side. It's because these are not locked in at the other side. So what we have to do is have a look that way, line them up, and then it will push on. Okay, so we've pushed the brush all the way on. If you look here, you can see the metal tab and the tab for the brush. What we do now is we just give it a little bit of pressure, making sure we're in line, and it should pop straight on. We just move that tab slightly over, and as you can see, it's starting to push on, and there we go, we're all locked in. Okay, so we're at this point now. Obviously the bolt was in there, so I've taken that out the way now. Then what we need to do is get our plates. Okay, so what we need to do is you need to work out what one needs to go on first. It's pretty obvious to you because you'll see the mark of the brush on there. So that one goes on first, like so. And then you get your skirt, you'll see what side is the brush. So we go like that, put that on there as well. Okay, and then your last one. Like so. All right, then we put our nuts just loosely back on. We'll tighten them up in a minute. Right, now we have this bit, making sure this is all clear, this area, and not covered. So then what we do is the bit of the brush there, you might need to move it so you can get your hand around the back. So you lift that up like that, put that on that stud, and this will all just lock into place. Like so. Okay, then we put our long bolt back down there, that locks it into the brush, it can't go anywhere, and our one nut what goes up onto this stud there. And then it's just a process of just tightening all the bolts up. So we have the 13 in the middle, like so. And that's it. That is your centre brush completed.